We're going to move on now to the topic of sustainability and innovation. These are three companies coming on that go beyond eco-efficiency, that go beyond the kind of obvious things that many companies are doing, and use the pursuit of a more sustainable business model to come up with new models, new processes, new ideas, and improvements on the top line as well as the bottom line. Leading the discussion, come on out now, Natalie. We have Natalie Allen, anchor and correspondent for CNN International. Please welcome Natalie and her panelists.
Mark. All right, welcome back, everyone. And I want to welcome my panelists, Vance Bell, Shaw Industries out of Georgia, the state where I live. Carpet guy, Joe Taylor of Panasonic, and Adam Lowry of Method Cleaning Products, co-founder and chief Greenskeeper.
That's correct.
Put it. All right, guys, thanks very much. Well, years ago, I profiled a sustainable CEO, and I know you all have heard of him, and Vance as well, Ray Anderson, who told me, this was about 6 years ago, that when he first started talking about sustainability and innovation, no one showed up to listen. 5 years later, companies sent middle management, and then about a few years after that, it was CEOs standing room only. And I want to point out again that this conference has had 57 CEOs present. And so something has happened in that time. So I think the question I would like to start with is, when did sustainability cease to represent sacrifice per se and stand for success? And I'll start with a carpet, the biggest producer of carpet.
Well, for us, it started about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. And we were challenged by our customers to design a product that was an alternative to what was in the marketplace in terms of materials and chemistry. And we really started with a blank sheet of paper in terms of looking at it. And we started with what was then kind of a radical concept. It was new, was cradle to cradle design. So we started with the end in mind, what that product was going to be when it came off of the floor in terms of its normal use, and how we could bring it back, deconstruct it, put it back together, and recycle it in terms of its original product. And that was it was an evolving event over the decade. But we found that we were able to produce a product and make a product that was a very sustainable product and ended up being 100% recyclable. It was our EcoWorks modular carpet tile. The customers loved it. It was cost competitive. We engineered great design and color into it. And all of a sudden, over that decade, it was probably one of the fastest growing products in the industry, and probably our most profitable product. So we sat back and said, wait a minute, this is not just about sustainability. It's not about the environment. It is, because of the way we've engineered the product. It's about growth. It's about market share. It's about profitability. It's about all of those drivers that business are driven on anyway. And it's the complete package. And that's when it started telling us that there was a success factor out there around products that could be engineered with some closed loop cycles that use different materials, that were profitable, and the customer responded to. So it's not just about sustainability, it was about the package.
I'm going to skip over Adam for a second, because his company came into being because of this word, sustainability innovation. Joe, you've had a company that's been around for a long time. When did Panasonic start seeing sustainability as something that represented where you had to be?
So Natalie, we're almost 100 years old, but probably sustainability really first impacted us about 30 years ago. And it was strictly from a manufacturing standpoint. Could we manufacture products everywhere around the world and be sensitive to the environment? And over that 30 years, we've evolved from looking at how we manufacture to how we design to today. Our responsibility or our focus is, how do we help our customers with the products? How do we make the world sustainable, from designing lighter components, in-flight entertainment and communications for airlines to help them, for lithium-ion batteries and fuel cells for automobiles, even to the extent of creating a sustainable platinum building for our employees to work in. So it's integrated the very fabric of how we do business.
How do you feel hearing this? You've got a carpet company who's 10 years into this, a 100-year-old company that's talking about sustainability innovation, and you created your company, Adam, surrounding all of this. So what's your perspective?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think in many ways I have a luxury, having started my business only 13 years ago, that I've been able to design my business model to do business fundamentally differently, based around cradle-to-cradle principles, based around principles of building sustainability into the way that you innovate. I think it's great that these guys are doing it as well. I think what's important going forward is to make sure that that businesses are doing it in a really authentic way.
Well, that was going to be a question I was going to ask. How do you show that your customers and who else you need to show that you are authentic in this space?
Well, I think for one thing, we're transparent. We report where we stand on our sustainability goals and metrics. Pretty extensive reporting every year on that. I think that our customers see it when we have them back to our facilities, or they see our product or our company in publication, and that we've made some pretty sizable investments, hard dollars, in this. I mean, we're the largest carpet recycler in the industry. We have investments around depolymerization of those polymers. We have investments around utilization of materials that can't be recycled back into carpet, where we put them into engineered resins or carpet cushion, or even energy, recycled to energy. So I think they can see the substance along with the vision with the investments that we've made.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I think ours, it's really very transparent. If you look at our consumer products, look at how many Energy Star awards we receive. If you look at us from the B2B space, which is really 80% of our business, look at all those companies that you think are leading edge green companies, and I guarantee you the key components in every one of those industries will be core of Panasonic products as a provider of OEM products, or as a partner to airlines and automotive companies. So it's rather easy to check what we're doing. We get report cards in the media every day.
And certainly Panasonic has had its challenges looking for innovation to turn the company around, and you have said that you see sustainability innovation as a big driver in the next 10 to 15 years, that it's got to succeed for your company.
Yeah, I think our struggles are well publicized, and really the core of those troubles are our consumer electronics business. And I'm not making excuses, but it's been a difficult industry for everyone in the industry. But as I said, only 20% of our revenue is coming from there. And our growth is really coming from B2B solutions. And what's driving those are eco, sustainability, and innovation. And if we are not successful, then the company won't exist. But I'm quite confident we will be.
All right. Adam, you bought a product to show us, and I know that one of the things that you've been working on lately is pulling the plastic out of the ocean to create your packaging. So tell us about this bottle.
This little guy here, yeah. This is the world's first bottle made out of ocean trash. And the reason we did this actually was really twofold. We wanted to make relevant to consumers the idea of reusing a material, closing the material loop. And secondly, we wanted to challenge industry to try to use more recycled plastic. Method for a long time. For 7, 8 years, we've made our bottles out of 100% post-consumer recycled material. But for a long time, we've heard industry make excuses that, oh, it's not high quality enough, or you can't get enough of it, or it turns brown. Well, we make tens of millions of bottles a year that are perfectly clear and high quality out of nothing but recycled resin. And so we thought, well, we looked at this ocean plastic problem that everybody has the same reaction to, and says, you're overwhelmed by the enormity of this problem and sort of the hopelessness of actually doing anything about it. We said, well, what if we could actually recycle some of that garbage and upcycle it into a bottle that is recyclable again and again, and then create a consumer awareness campaign about it? We could actually raise awareness about this issue with everyday people, which is important. And then secondly, also, it really just kind of removes that excuse for industry to not be using post-consumer material when if little old method can pull trash out of the ocean that's been floating there for the last decade or so and turn it into this, you can use a little bit of PCR in your package as well. And it's one of the ways that we use our business as a catalyst for not only making our business better through continuous improvement around sustainable innovation, but actually force our entire industry and our competitive set to follow our lead and therefore get the whole industry moving in the right direction.
So you're thinking that things like this will influence these guys next to you who've had companies for a while?
Well, I'll give you a real live example from yesterday. Bob McDonald was up here. He was talking about the sustainability benefits of concentrating laundry detergent. He called Tide Pods the most concentrated laundry detergent that you can buy. He said it twice. That's actually not true. I don't know if he forgot about little old method, but a Tide Pod is 20 milliliters of product for a dose. Method laundry detergent is 12. And we launched that product in 2010. Tide Pods launched in 2012. And that's actually the second time that we've disrupted the laundry category. We launched a triple concentrated detergent in 2004. That was followed by Unilever in 2005, P&G in 2006. And so, we're operating in one of the oldest industries there is. I mean, we make soap, right? We make soap for a living. But yet, there are few categories as uninteresting as soap. But yet, by using sustainability as the way that you innovate in product, you can actually force these very staid industries where there really hasn't been any meaningful innovation in 50 years to move to a new equilibrium of a more sustainable product format by using the power of a small business like us to catalyze everybody towards a better place. And the way you do that is by simply designing a product that meets consumer needs better. And in 2013, that means meeting those needs not just on a sustainability standpoint, but at an aesthetic level, most importantly at a product performance level. If you do all of those things, a small business can actually lead a huge industry towards much more rapid change.
I'd like to get you guys' reaction to what he just said.
I don't know whether I'm happy he's not in the electronics industry, or I wish you would join it to help us stimulate things a little more.
Yeah, well, what if the
I told him I just bought a Panasonic TV, and he was like, "Oh, I wish you wouldn't have done that."
What if an atom of the electronics business emerges?
I think it would be one of the best things to ever happen to the electronics industry. Sometimes industries just kind of get stayed in the way they do things and the way they think about things. And I think it really takes a disruptive force like this force to really rejuvenate and kind of transform the entire industry. I'm afraid that sometimes we just think about things the same way we always did, not intentionally, but because we know best, because we've done it a million times, et cetera, et cetera. And then somebody comes in and does it a completely different way, and you find out it's a better way, and maybe we better catch up. So I think disruptive forces are the best thing that could ever happen to an industry.
I agree with Joe, and I'm also a little bit envious of Adam in that he could create this company and look at some of the mistakes or look at some of the processes that could be changed. I mean, we're a fairly old industry and company also, 40 or 50 years, and we're highly integrated. So we kind of started with traditional polymers and traditional chemistries and a lot of backwards integration, and really difficult, a big challenge to change that supply chain and to introduce new materials and find new chemistries and find ways of recycling products. And certainly not all carpet products are recyclable. Some polymers are not recyclable back into carpet. Some of them can be downcycled. So it's really been more of a challenge in terms of how we take that kind of supply chain from very traditional manufacturing to traditional chemistries in those supply chains and move to something else. I'm kind of envious that you able, which is a wonderful thing, walk in and look at the supply chain, look at how it's being done, and find a different way to
start
do things.
fresh. I mean, there is that's what I meant when I said there is a luxury of being a younger business. But the lesson there is actually you got to build your business to continually be able to reinvent itself. I mean, this laundry detergent story that I told, some people have said to me, well, oh, Adam, that was easy for you. Your laundry detergent was a small business when you replaced that 3X with our 8X product. And I said, it was 30% of my business. And I threw it out the window because I had a product that was a better product for consumers. And that's the thing that I think is really hard. Like, sustainability is predicated on progress. And what that requires is taking what makes us money today, throwing it out the window and replacing it with something that's better, greener, but far less certain. And that's something that is a hard truth when you've got shareholders to answer to. Now, I also have the luxury of being a private business. So my shareholders are a lot easier to align around that thing. And so, there are luxuries that I enjoy as a smaller business, as a private business, that enable innovation there. But I think it opens up some questions about how do we, even questions of corporate governance, how do we find ways of enabling more of this innovation to happen by letting companies take the risks that are going to be required to do this level of innovation?
And on that same topic, I noted Hannah Jones with Nike yesterday talking about this same thing. And she said, how do we get innovation to system change? And that's what you're kind of talking about with being embedded in systems, that it's very hard to do that.
Yeah, and again, I think when you start down the road of innovation or sustainability, and they drive each other, when we started with the EcoWorks carpet tile, we didn't have all the answers in place. And we started out, again, kind of a white sheet of paper, what we wanted it to be. And it took several years for us to put in place all of the components and all the capabilities to really make that product work well and to be totally successful. And so once you get that platform, it's like this process spawns something else, and then that spawns something else. And we've continued to look at the product system and that platform to say, up until just recently, a year or two ago, introduced a really sustainable installation system that does not use adhesives or glues for our modular carpet tile. So you're constantly building off of that platform but you got to start first. And you don't have all the answers to begin with. You just know where you're trying to go, and you just keep innovating and keep going down different roads until you get to where you said you're going to be.
And I know everyone's come up to you and tell you they're buying a Panasonic TV at this conference, but you have said you're not a TV company, you are a technology company. And what are the challenges for being an electronics technology company in this day and age and thinking sustainable innovation? Tell us about a product that we might not know of.
So the first thing I have to tell you is we have to send the message that we're not just a TV company. Apparently we've done a really terrible job. If you think about it, we're 100 years old and $100 billion. And the total consumer portfolio worldwide is less than 40%, and yet nobody in this room, nobody in this whole seminar really understands Panasonic. So we've done a horrible job in explaining really who we are and what we do. But I can guarantee you, I can point out products that every one of you have in your pocket right now that are made by Panasonic. So your smartphones, 30 to 40%, and I don't care who the manufacturer is, 30 to 40% of the components in that phone are made by Panasonic. Your laptop, 30 to 40% of the components in that product are made by Panasonic. When you fly an airline, I don't care what airline, there's an 80% chance that that in-flight entertainment and communication system is made and designed by Panasonic. In your automobile, the multimedia interfaces, the fancy things with the navigation systems and the entertainment all embedded, we design those. So all of these things, all of these technologies also have other uses. So yes, you're entertained on the plane, but we designed the world's lightest and most efficient in-flight entertainment system. The single biggest problem airlines have, the single biggest problem is weight, because weight means fuel. Fuel's the biggest burden on them. So we designed a product that's great for the consumer's use and satisfies a need for our customer, which is the airline. Automotive industry, who uses more fuel than the automotive industry? So navigation systems, when we tie into the cloud, we can help you avoid traffic jams to save fuel. Our lithium-ion battery chemistry or our fuel cell chemistry, which I think is probably a better future technology for cars, are all designed by Panasonic for a long time. So these are the kinds of messages we have to get out. These are all directly related to sustainability, and they're all directly related to innovation. But innovation is the big buzzword now. Everybody's innovative. it may be the single most difficult thing a big company has to do. That's the single biggest advantage. When you start a company from scratch, you can create this innovative process. Innovation's not a linear thing. It's kind of a matrix, ideas coming from all over the place and trying something and not trying. Big companies, we don't typically encourage people to try something and fail. It's just not part of the culture. So how do you change all that? Well, you can create a brand new company and say, it's okay to fail if you've tried it. So these are some of the issues that we have to face more than the technology itself.
You stand for speed and innovate, and if it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a book called The Method that is all about essentially what the thesis of the book is that, you know, we do great design, we do sustainability, we do performance, you know, we do all great, you know, product design. All of those things can be copied, but what can never be copied is our culture. And if we're leading the industry and industry's trying to follow us, you know, I like to joke that, you know, being a small Clorox is no way to go through life, right? Like you're just going to get run over. So you have to operate differently. We do operate differently, and if people are trying to play our game, then they're trying to out-method. And so what you're talking about is creating a culture where you can replicate the risk-taking, the design work that's required to create sustainable innovations in a repeatable manner. And that's something that I think that all companies, my own included, need to get better at. But that's I think you hit the nail on the head in talking about the primary impediment to more sustainable innovation. Very rarely has to do with technology or creativity. It's really the culture change that's required within companies in order to make that thrive and happen.
And how important is it for your company that the consumer knows about what method stands for? How key is it that that little tab on that bottle says made from ocean plastic?
Yeah, it's very important that they know what method stands for. They don't always know that sustainability is core to what we do. And that's interesting, right? I used to be a climate scientist. One of the reasons I started my business is I was only talking to other climate scientists. I have people that buy method because they have a purple bathroom. And some people ask me, like, doesn't that bother you that they don't know that the bottle's made out of 100% post-consumer plastic? And I say, no. No, because those are exactly the people that we need to get into the movement. Making and marketing products, you know, green products for green people is totally pointless. So what we've got to do is find a way of appealing to everyone else. And so, you know, consumers understand that about the Method brand, but they'll articulate it in terms of like, you'll be on an airplane, it'll be like, Method, no, not really ringing a bell. And you're like, oh, yeah, teardrop, oh, yeah, I've got that in my bathroom, right? You know, they start making shapes with their hands about, you know, the designs of our products. And I think that's great. Like, if you have to walk through the door of sort of worthiness and, you know, drudgery and granola in order to buy a green product, it's just never, ever going to work. Right. Because there's never been a brand in history that's been successful based off of a core proposition of sacrifice. So you have to delight consumers. You have to create things of brilliance. And then the quality of those products must be built, and the innovation must be built around sustainability.
Right, the Russian, that the recycled toilet paper was mentioned the other day. It's just not something that went over well. And I just want to say that as an environmental correspondent, I like to think I make informed choices, but I don't buy bottles that don't match my bathroom. Just painted a second bathroom gray and white. So I'm going for
this one's for you.
Okay. All right. Well, we have about just a few minutes left, so I know you might want to jump in here and talk about something that's related to your businesses and driving innovation with sustainable. Anybody? Everybody's like brain dead after lunch.
Crickets lunch.
Lunchtime.
There's one over there.
Here we go.
This is a question for Adam. This is Paul Lightfoot from Bright Farms. Thanks all of you for talking with us today. When you started, and also today, did you command a premium for your product relative to the mainstream competition? And if you did or didn't, how did that impact the way you penetrated the market and did your pricing strategies?
Yeah, I mean, Method is a premium product. It's not very premium, so our stuff you might buy for $2.99 instead of a regular cleaner might be $2.59, $2.69, so a modest premium. Part of that it was strategy. Part of that is necessity. These are industries of massive scale, and we don't have as much scale as other guys, so there's disadvantages there. But we make a superior product. And I think we really are kind of redefining premium, where one of the aspects of premium is sustainability, but it's part of the quality, not the way you market the product.
Back here in the very back corner, the green, the microphone's coming over to you.
Yeah, this is also to Adam. It's Elizabeth Littlefield again. Could you just talk a little bit more about the process by which you did the ocean waste collection, like exactly how you did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question because it wasn't easy, was it?
And
Yeah.
how much it costs, and is anybody else doing that, and is there hope that anybody will follow you?
Yeah, well, I'll go quick because we're running out of time. On our website, methodhome.com, there's a lot of videos about how we do the process, so you can go detailed there. But essentially, we went and collected the plastic ourselves off of beaches in Hawaii because it's at the southern edge of the North Pacific Gyre. In phase one. And the recycling process is just like the normal recycling process with a couple of additions. One, to help wash the product, make sure it's really clean, because it's often dirty when you pull it out of the ocean. And a second, to make the polymer stronger again, so that we actually combine it with curbside recycling, HDPE, to make it stronger so that it'll be a bottle that's high quality. And then now in phase two, what we're doing is we're actually scaling the program. So we've now got 3 partners in Hawaii, partners on the East Coast, partners in Australia, and we're working with some other brands that are non-competitive brands that are going to start using the ocean plastic in some of their products as well. So, right now, it's a lot cheaper to just buy plastic than it is to do this. But, if nobody ever takes this first step, we'll never know whether there's economic viability to it. And I think most importantly, the real reason we did this was kind of to make a point, which is if you can recycle plastic that's floating out in the middle of the ocean for a decade or more, why don't we just use the plastic that's already on the planet, right? We only recycle a quarter of the plastic that we use in this country. A lot of the plastic that's around here in this hotel is going to get thrown away, right? So why don't we just recapture that stuff and reuse that? That's a lot easier than going out in the middle of the ocean and picking up trash. So even if we aren't successful in creating a commodity called ocean post-consumer plastic, I think we will be successful in raising the awareness, we already have been, that gets people to start thinking about trying to buy products that contain more closed-loop materials, whether it's Method stuff or carpets or
Not
airplane stuff.
Airplane stuff.
One more question, if there's one from the audience. We have time for one more. All right.
25 seconds.
Okay, well, we have to wrap it up. Anyway, remember, Panasonic is not just a TV company.
Thank you.
We'll help carry on.
That made my trip worthwhile.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.